All right, good evening, Council. Call the meeting to order. It is May 23rd. It's a regular council meeting on a Tuesday. After celebrating Victoria Day yesterday. So we'll call the meeting to order and we'll start with a moment of reflection, after which we'll get into the approval of the agendas. So we'll start with a moment of reflection now. All right. Starting with the approval of the agendas, is there anyone wishing to pull from the consent agenda? Otherwise, a motion to approve the consent agenda is presented. Councillor Henniger makes the motion. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Regular meeting agenda. I don't believe there were any additions. It's quite a short agenda. Call for a motion to approve the agenda as presented. Councillor Fox makes a motion. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. For the good of council, does anyone have something they wish to share with council? Councillor Henniger?
Just that it's the first day of the pool opening and there was a bunch of kids in there even though the wind was blowing. So thank you for the town for getting that going. And as well as there is the Parade of Garage Sales happening on June 9th, 10th, and 11th weekend. And if you'd like to sign up, you can give me a call. But we've already had about 20 houses sign up. Everyone was signing up today. So it's going to be a great weekend. June 9th, 10th, and 11th.
Very good, thank you. Any other for the good of council comments? Anthony, our CEO.
Just to echo the pool opening at fmfacilities.ca, which is the facilities website. You can find the pool schedule. So we're all pretty excited for the pool to be full. And the same weekend as the Parade of Garage Sales, if that's what it was called, we have the Spring Household Cleanup on that Friday and Saturday, June 9th and 10th. So just as previously, residents can come in and get some tickets to bring in their items to do a bit of spring cleanup. There's also we also provide a free dump day at the dump that day.
All right, any other comments for the good of council? Everyone's enjoying the spring weather. Very good. If there's no other comments, then we'll move on to delegations, of which we have one tonight. We have Sergeant Christian Lafleur here tonight to speak on behalf of the RCMP. Is there anything administration would like to start off with introducing this, or we're good? All right, so welcome to council tonight, and we look forward to hearing from you again. So the floor is yours.
So here to report for the last quarter of the last year, which finished at the end of March. We had some difficulty meeting our quotas, if you want, or set achievement. Simple reason is out of 5 constable, I was down to 3 working constables, which impacted the numbers that we were trying to accomplish. To remedy that going forward, I've taken steps by borrowing a constable from Piikani Nation temporarily till hopefully either get new members transferred in or issues revolves with the 2 that are not working right now. One of them just came back part-time, so we should start seeing a difference. So one of the first priority we had last year was crime reduction. Right now we had 4 active offenders management file opening. What that means is that whoever gets released on conditions, curfew, and so on, we make a point of enforcing those conditions, pay home visits to make sure that they're abiding by their conditions. If they're not, we go and we arrest them, charge them with that, and let the court re-release them. We're also, part of that is our partnership with probations. We're keeping an eye on them communicating with them what else is new coming out of them. We're doing an active warrant board as well, so that anybody out of warrants in the area, we try to locate and arrest them. We were quite successful last week. In the last quarter was a little harder, like I said, and you're gonna see this team pretty well through our priorities was the lack of manpower severely affected us. We did do a roundup, although it wasn't part of this thing here. We try to do that every so often, but an official where we're all en masse going to door to door was not done. What I done instead, but I can't take credit for it, is I utilized the crime reduction unit out of Calgary to come in and arrest a few of our people. You don't see that reflected in it because I don't take credit for other people's work, but I try to build relationship with other units to make our life, if you want, easier. We basically had to do a certain number of press releases every quarter. I've switched from going quarterly to I try to do it weekly in this new year coming forward. So you'll see every week in the Gazette, there'll be a press release to detail what we've done, what was accomplished, and the type of file, as well as the number of calls for service that we received. That's in a spirit of being more transparent and being more visible. Overall, so far, the results have been great. People have approached myself and my members saying that they appreciate knowing what we're doing. Last year, the priority two has been the community relations. We fell short just because there was a series of acting detachment commanders. Again, sorry, the shortage of manpower. So we weren't able to do the full number of town hall meetings we were supposed to do. I managed to get one just when I took over. Unfortunately, that was the end of the year. But that helped me set the priorities based on your feedback for this coming year. We are pushing our members, myself and Corporal Ertl, to conduct more foot patrol. With the nicer weather now, obviously it's a lot easier to convince somebody to go out on foot, versus when it's minus 40. So we've increased that. I've also instructed my members to go have a coffee, interact with people, take as long as it takes to put a human face on the uniform, as well as it's one way for us to find out what's going on in the community that otherwise we wouldn't know. So that's been increasing exponentially. We've, in the last quarter, we did some school visit, not as much as I would have liked. Otherwise, school received one visit, the Granham School, one visit. WA Day School received 4. FP Wall Schools received 5. So again, with manpower, it's a little hard to send somebody to a school for a few hours. However, we've taken steps to increase that. And that's being monitored by myself and Corporal Earl. We're looking at bringing in guest lecturers as well, and then ticketing. We've got some feedback that we have to be careful of triggering. For example, one of the lecturers that we're working to bring in is somebody who was texting and driving, got into a bad car accident, and she was recording herself as she got into the accident. So we were told that they have to think about that because that might be triggering, which I thought was the goal, but we'll let them decide. Traffic, again, our goal was not met for the last quarter. We've worked at it in the last little bit. You're gonna see an improvement on that. I just finished training all my members on the alcohol screening device. So now they can all do impaired investigation, just roadside and more check stops. So I've instructed them as part of a traffic stop now, as I'd expect them to do the breath demand in a lot of cases. we did 26 school zone patrol in the Q4. Again, mainly because we've directed them to and kicked them out of the office. With the workload of 5 down to 3, it was a little tricky, but it's important. I've instructed my member for that last part of the Q4 to focus mainly on education. So we've pulled a lot of people over, and instead of giving a ticket, they were giving a lecture or educated on what the ticket could have been, and go forward, make sure that you don't speed or put on your seatbelt or so on and so forth. And then using the press release, I've picked a date and said from this point on, education's over, now we're doing enforcement. That was well received by some people, not everyone. We've done a few speed-focused check stop in the last Q4. Again, partnering with Claire's own members. We did in Granham and Highway 519. We stopped 7 vehicles, 7 speeding tickets were issued just for speeding. You're gonna see those numbers going up again. My next project is getting all my members radar and laser trained so that they can actually issue speeding tickets. So far, I've only got a few members that are qualified to do that, so that is an area that we need to look after. It's just with everything that's happening, it's hard to get the training on board of that. It says here that because of the staff shortages, increased workload, we weren't able to do as many check stops as we would have liked. As I'm sure that you heard from now, in the last little while, we've done quite a few check stops in town, in the area. Just this weekend, we conducted a major joint operation involving 20 Lethbridge police officers, Alberta sheriffs, the Claire Somers CMP, and my guys on Highway 3, which was quite effective. Ironically, one of the person that was stopped was a beer truck driver. He received a warning, and for a commercial driver, it's 0 tolerance. So it's just ironic he was driving a beer truck. In our, right now, we're kind of riding the a downslope in crime, or in general, with the only exception being traffic, or motor vehicle collision traffic. We're being more proactive in that. There's a few more of that. Everything else is down. Although I've noticed for the last, I would say, 3 weeks, I'm starting to see a slight uptick in the calls for service, impaired as well. One of the problems that we're seeing is Blood Tribe Nation is enacting a band council resolution. They're starting to kick their undesirable out of the reserves, which a lot of them are now coming to town. Some of them have told us the reason they're coming to Fort Macleod is they don't feel safe in that bridge. Fort Macleod is a nice and safe place, so unfortunately, that kind of brings a problem with them, right? So we're starting to see that. And with the summer, people are out more, so we're starting to see that a little bit. Would you like me to go more in detail in each? So in the next page is the staffing category. So Fort Macleod has 7 officers, so 1 sergeant, 1 corporal, 5 constable. As I said at this point, I have 2 constables that have been benched. One is for a medical reason. I'm hoping he's part-time now coming back. I'm hoping to have him full-time again pretty soon. And the last constable has been benched for other reasons that we're working through right now. In the meantime, I have somebody on loan from Piikani Nations, and we're going to be working hopefully with Claire's Home to see if what they can do. But we're backing each other up at this time, so we don't really see a ton of slack for calls that are more important. Our admin staff is fully staffed. We have 2 admin workers. One is working or is waiting for surgery. Contingencies have been in place that once she goes, somebody else is going to come in and take her place, so there shouldn't be any lag in service in that aspect. And then, do you want me to go through these statistics here? They're pretty well what I've told you already.
Yeah, I don't think so. Unless someone has questions, we can always. Does anyone have questions on the detailed stats being presented? I think that's the last 2 pages.
So some of the things that happened in the last week is we've had a robbery file that happened Thursday night, if I'm not mistaken. We had response teams from Coaldale RCMP, from Claresholm RCMP, and a few other people. At this point, it was one of the liquor store. Somebody used bear spray as a getaway means. We've tentatively identified one. Actually, we've identified one person. The investigation is ongoing. I thought about putting it on Voyant, but by that time we're pretty sure that we're dealing with. However, we've used Voyant on one occasion, which was extremely beneficial to us, so that's a great thing to use. Yeah. We've had one child luring complaint, which was a teenager. We've identified the person from the description of the vehicle that was given to us due to the good work of one of my constables. I went with him and we spoke to the person. It was a misunderstanding. There was not enough grounds for us to pursue charges. However, I did tell the person that there wouldn't be a second misunderstanding. So that should be taken care of. This last week we arrested one of our major drug dealer in town, again with partnership with Blood Tribe Police, as well as the Crime Reduction Unit out of Calgary. So and I believe they got released. Got released right away, but it is what it is. We're starting a positive ticketing program. We're debating whether I want to start June 1st. Some people are floating June 15th, but the sooner the better. A lot of the businesses in town have given prizes and so on. So you're going to see that throughout the summer for the children. Basically, if they're doing something positive, they'll get a positive ticket, for lack of a better term, for ice cream or a McDonald's coupon or whatever. There's different prizes, as well as we're looking at 3 major prizes at the end of or throughout the summer to reward good behavior. That's all I have.
Any comments or questions? Yeah. Go ahead. Sir, sorry.
I was just curious to know, you've done a few school visits, and I guess what does a typical school visit look like when you guys go and visit the schools?
So typically I'll have my constable or myself. We'll go in and we'll talk to the teacher. We'll interact with as many students as possible. Basically just to open the line of communications and be less threatening is usually what it boils down to.
Yeah, for sure.
I just wanted to thank you. I actually sent a text message out to council because just seeing how fast the detachment was on the highway near McDonald's the one day, I think it was on a Friday, there was a check stop and it came to a halt very fast. And I sent a text saying, what is going on? Because you guys, within a minute, I didn't even know you were having a check stop and the entire highway stopped and they were going through. And thank you. Somebody ticketed my dad yesterday driving through from Calgary. it's a really big lead foot, and so thank you for getting him coming into town. I appreciate that.
Wait, wait till he hears that you were. Yeah, very good. I think a lot of what you're sharing tonight is definitely appreciated. Whether it's visiting the schools or the check stops or fighting crime or helping with, um, yeah, identifying individuals that have warrants. I know it came up a little bit too with the transfer of, I wouldn't call them undesirables, but individuals who are prone to crime into our community from other areas where they're trying to reduce their crime. So that's something that we need to watch for sure. Um, yeah, so a lot of the positive ticketing program. That's a good opportunity as well. I was going to mention I had a privilege of seeing the RCMP Academy in Ottawa over the weekend, so I got to see the musical ride there. They had a sunset ceremony and musical ride was going on, and got a tour around with a lot of your colleagues there. So it was pretty neat to see as well. So um, I know the musical ride 150 is coming up. Did you have anything you wanted to share regarding that in Forma Cloud?
So July 12th, is our celebration of the 150th anniversary of the RCMP, which is today, as a matter of fact, and the museum. Part of that celebration is going to be the musical ride coming and putting on a show, as well as I think they're going to be doing a few visits for charity as well, and they're donating a bunch of items to the museum. We're going to be doing a few things. I'm actually using it for raising awareness for Citizen on Patrol. I've approached the Rural Crime Watch that's being developed now in Fort Macleod, Willow Creek, to also set up for raising awareness and try to get more members. We're bringing in the big teepee. We're going to be setting that up. So part of that is I'm going to be trying to get an elder to come in, teach our members and whoever is willing to help that day to raise the teepee, the significance of it as well. We're working hands in hands with the museum and yourself being a board member. So we're just trying to find out more details right now as to what it is that they want to do.
So the actual 150th is today. Well, that's amazing. So congratulations on the 150. That's a long time. I know that was, look forward to celebrating with your CP when they travel around too. Any other comments, questions? Well, thank you so much for coming again tonight. We look forward to hearing every quarter, so that's appreciated. All right, thank you. Have a great evening. All right. That was very good. Moving on then to public hearing, of which we have one tonight, bylaw 1974. And we will start by asking our Director of Operations, Agent Pedro, if he can introduce the bylaw to us. And after that, we'll call for a motion to open the public hearing. And then anyone wishing to speak for or against bylaw 1974 may come to the mic, share their name, whether their position's for or against, and then we could look forward to hearing from you. After that, we'll close the public hearing and go on to the consideration of the same bylaw. So we'll start with having our Director of Operations, Agent Pedro, introduce the bylaw.
Good evening, Council. We have before you this evening bylaw 1974. This is the Waste Management Amendment bylaw. We are going for public hearing and second and third reading. And so first reading was done earlier in May. I would note that this schedule has changed between first reading and the second and third reading. Substantial change being that we actually broke down the rates even further. So from our first round of consultation with our customers, there was some good feedback provided, and in order to expand our program and provide our customers with more choice, we did break down the rates even further. So although the maximum charge per bin didn't necessarily change. We actually broke down those rates into weekly, every 2 weeks, monthly fees, as well as giving people the opportunity to actually have variable bin sizes for each stream. So they no longer have to have the same size for each stream. So they can go with, for example, a 4-yard waste and a 3-yard recycling, for example, just offering that customization. So yeah, just some of the changes there.
All right, so I think we'll welcome Councillor Van Angbos to his seat before we open the public hearing. All right, so we're just on the public hearing for bylaw 1974, and I will request a motion from council to open the public hearing for bylaw 1974. Councillor Wolstenholme makes the motion. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. All right, so bylaw 1974, we are looking to go to second and third reading tonight. Before we do that, we have a public hearing. So anyone wishing to speak for or against bylaw 1974 can take the time now by coming to the mic, stating your name and position and reasoning. Pardon me? Oh. Oh, okay, sorry, I was trying to think. Where did that come from? Yeah. All right, I will call the notice 3 times. So anyone here wishing to speak for or against bylaw 1974? And the last time, anyone wishing here to speak for or against bylaw 1974? Seeing none, then I'll request a motion from council to close the public hearing for bylaw 1974. Councillor Fox makes a motion. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. On to the consideration of the public hearing we just had. We are looking to request second and third reading for bylaw 1974. Is anyone wishing to make a motion for second reading of bylaw 1974? Councillor Poitras makes the motion. Any question for administration on bylaw 1974? Councillor Henniger?
Not a question, just thank you for breaking down those numbers. I personally have a commercial property and I really respected that. But I guess my question is, once that goes through, how long would we expect that people have their bins either changed or taken away? What's the process on that? Obviously, we're still in the public hearing, in the public hearings of second and third reading, but what would that look like after?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the June 1st deadline kind of still applies. So the plan is to kind of see what the changes are subsequent to that, and then we can kind of sort out what changes we can do immediately and what changes we need to get different or more bins for. That being said, I think it's going to be a bit of a process depending on how many people want to change bins. There's certain bin sizes that aren't readily available, so we're going to have to sort that out. But yeah, we'll optimistically, it'll probably take about 4 or 5 weeks. So.
Very good. Yeah, I think that's a good question because some people maybe expect their rates to drop because of bin size changes immediately, right? Instead of over 2, 3, maybe even 4-month period. We don't know how long it'll take. So as long as we're clear on that, obviously timing can change, but bin size is going to be harder to change. Yeah. All right. Any other questions for administration? Any further discussion or debate? Seeing none, we'll call the question. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion for second reading has passed. Has been carried. Anyone prepared to make a motion for third reading of bylaw 1974? Councillor Fox makes a motion for third reading. Any further discussion, questions, or debates? Seeing none, we'll call it the question. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion for third reading of bylaw 1974 has been carried. All right, moving on to new business, of which we have 3 items, starting with the first, our 2023 non-residential tax incentives, and our Director of Finance, Chris Holbeck, will speak to this one.
Thank you, Mayor Fader. Good evening, Council. As it is the final year in the 3-year cycle for our non-residential tax incentive program, I thought it would be fun to give you some stats from the first cycle. So I threw down some numbers. The current year's tax incentive for 2023 was $85,809.29. That's what we forgave in non-res municipal taxes for this year. So it has been a very well-received program by the business community. As you can see by my report, the first year, which is the business that, or the property that applied for the 2021-2023 cycle, their tax incentive for this year, they're in the last year, so the 50% of the municipal tax part of the program, theirs was about $900. The people who are on the second year of that program, this year there's 4 properties, and that was about $11,500 in municipal tax forgiveness. And then the newest group who are in year 1 of the 3-year cycle, there's 6 properties, and the municipal tax forgiveness on that group of properties who are in that first year at 100% of the municipal taxes is just about $73,500 this year. So it's been a very popular and well-received program, and I'm sure the business community and property owners are very happy with it. I have a couple of applications for the next year. That'll be coming to council. We have to review it and make sure that they're complete and that they fall within the bylaw. But I just wanted to give you some stats because I thought it was very fun to see how it ramped up over the 3-year cycle, and it's been a lot of fun to administer. So I'll take any questions if you have any. Other than that, it's just for information for council.
Very good, thank you. So that 3-year cycle, the first one, that would be 25%, or, yeah, 25%, correct?
So it goes 100 the first year, 75, 50.
Okay, right, so
Yeah,
50.
so it's at the 50%.
Right, okay, yeah, that's
Yeah.
50. Okay. Okay, so the 2023 to 2025 is at the 100%. Correct, okay. Any questions for Director of Finance? Any comments on this? Anyone prepared to make a motion to receive as information? Councillor Van Eyck-Moss makes that motion. All in favor? Motion to accept as information has been carried. All right, moving on then to item 2, Town Office Summer Hours, and our CAO, Anthony Burdett, would like to speak to this one.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. As we've had some discussion on this item in our committee of the whole meeting, administration is putting forth a recommendation that the council approves a reduction of office hours on Fridays from 4:30 to 1:30, ultimately allowing town staff to work additional time through the week, being a little more accessible through the noon hour, so that on Fridays through the summer months, we can close the office at 1:30 and make the most of the summer. You can note that on June 30th, we will remain open till 4:30, as it's a tax payment deadline. Yeah, and it's consistent with a little bit with what Livingston Range is doing for the summer. They've got a bit of added flexibility. We definitely recognize the need to be open and the need to be available to the public, and that's why we're trying to make up for those hours by being more available during that noontime, because we do see people coming in on their lunch breaks to do business here, so we wanted to make sure that was we were available there, and even on the Fridays, staying till after that lunch time. Yeah, so it's our recommendation that council approves this as a pilot program for this summer for the months of June, July, August. yeah, and if you have any questions or comments, I'd gladly try to answer them.
Thank you very much. Anyone prepared to make a motion as per the recommendation? Councillor Hanniger? Motion to approve as per the recommendation for the pilot program, yes. Any comments, questions for administration? Councillor Naglos?
Thank you. Questions/comments. Do we know the amount of visitors, the number of visitors we have over a given time, 3 months on a Friday after 1:30? Have we documented that? Because that to me should be relevant information in our pilot project. So maybe the September, October, November numbers. But I guess the biggest concern I have is that it is a pilot project, and I'm all for pilot projects, but will we document the amount of negative feedback we get on this? Because I understand this is 100% positive for staff, but the difference between us and the Livingston Range is we have a front counter, and we're here strictly and solely for the public as an office that's open, right? So that's the amount of work that gets done. I don't think that's a discussion here. It's strictly being available to the public. That's the only concern I have, so.
So just a little bit of information, and we did have, and I know it's not entirely comparable, but we did do some data collection for a few months before, so we could kind of see some patterns and regular flow of staff. We found out that there aren't very strong patterns to when people come in. We did recognize that the sheer number of people that come in on any given afternoon isn't very large, and we can share that data with council. But I think that's a great idea to document the feedback that we get from the public. To another big piece is that we really actively let people know, because I can't imagine, the person who comes in who hasn't been notified, they're coming in to rush in to get something done, at 2:30 on a Friday, and they realize it's closed, right? And so getting some notice out in the paper, getting notice on our Voyant Alert and other media streams, I think is important. Yeah, and just keeping track of the data is really big, so we can know, get a little bit more feedback to see if this is something that can be done going forward, or if we find it either administratively burdensome with the amount that has to be done, or the public outcry. But we're hoping that the public can adjust for those summer months, and we'll be able to make this work.
Thank you. I had a quick couple questions. Does this affect the hours of FCSS? Are they disconnected?
Yeah, I guess that would have to go with their board. We haven't spoken much with FCS about this specific thing. Yeah, so they would have to talk with their board about approving something like this.
Yeah, for sure.
As well as FCSS has a lot of their summer program happening around that time frame. So a lot of the time, summer programming can be on a Friday afternoon and their office is already closed because they're down at Centennial, or they're doing like an ice cream social. So usually the Thursdays and the Fridays are their busiest in the summers. But the board, just speaking from a board perspective, has not been brought forward. So I believe it's staying open.
Okay. And then the other question, emergency contact after hours obviously would stay the same. If someone said they had a serious question or something, is there access, or how does that work?
We have an after-hours emergency number. We are currently reviewing that to making sure that it's a feasible means to get a hold of us. We have had some challenges with it, but we're hoping to make sure that that's streamlined. So if someone has to get a hold of, whether it be Public Works or facilities or something, that it's, we can get to the right spot. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Councilor Naglos?
Forgot one question. Seeing as one of the Fridays in June is not changing, is there a reason why June was included in this? Like July and August are summer holidays for schools as well, so I'm just curious why June was added.
Yeah, June, given this was a pilot project, we wanted to see how it would be outside of just a summer month, to see what that would be like. And that's why June was added in.
And if the pilot project was successful, pardon me, what would be the next step after that?
I guess that would depend on how successful we deem it to be and how, council's appetite. Whether this be a consistent practice that we do for a few months of the year, that it would depend on how it goes. I mean, yeah. Currently, I guess I failed to mention, there is an agreement with our facility staff that for the months of May, June, July, and August, they work an adjusted schedule. That's been in place for years. But yeah, so that's kind of where this came from as we looked at schedules and staff were looking at adjusting for the spring, summer months. And so, but where it ends up, hard to say at this point.
Okay, thank you. All right, there is a motion on the floor. Any other questions, discussion, or debate? If there's no further comment or discussion, then we'll call for a motion. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. What's that? Oh, sorry. Vote, call it to question. So the motion to approve the pilot program for the town office to change hours has been approved. Carried. Moving on then to item 3, 2023 Grantham District Canada Day Society request. And our Director of Community and Protective Services would like to speak to this one.
Thank you. It's the time of year where we start to receive parade requests and invites for council to participate. Grantham is one of the special ones where they typically ask us for a donation to help with the celebration costs. You can see here that we are asking to approve a $500 donation to the Grantham and District Canada Day Society to support their celebration in Grantham. The second piece of this is to ask council to consider participating in the parade. The float that was prepared and donated by Davis Dodge this last year for the Santa Claus Parade is one that was made to fit in the back of a truck box and make it a little bit easier to transport to other communities, with the idea that for summer parades we would be able to set something up in the back of a truck once we're at that location, rather than trying to drag a float to different communities and then advertise our Santa Claus Parade in their parades for the summer, since we're one of the area that has a winter parade versus a summer parade. So we would also be asking if council is available, if somebody would like to commit to going and attending the parade, noting that this parade this year is at 7:30 at night, that it's not the daytime parade that typically will happen in some communities.
Very good. So the recommendation, you wanted in two motions, or can we separate it and do the attendance?
Yeah,
as a
probably
secondary
better
one?
that the donation is in one motion, and then I'm not sure that council will know their plans right at this moment to be able to confirm that they're available, but they can definitely let us know within the next week, and we can reply with that to the society as well.
Sounds good. All right, anyone prepared to make a motion regarding the donation request for the Canada Day fireworks show? Councillor Fox, motion to approve. Any further questions on the motion? Councillor Van Hagbos?
Well, I am happy to see that the community of Grantham is proceeding with their fireworks, unlike other municipalities in this great province, so that's great to see.
Thank you. All right, so motion's on the floor. Any other comments? If none, call to question. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. And then the second part of it, I think, will be more of an internal discussion regarding who can attend, right? I think we have a standing policy that whoever attends would get, I think it was halftime or something?
Half honorarium is typically paid to council member to attend. And unless anybody's already prepared to commit to that, then yeah, you can just let me or Miranda know in the next week or so if somebody's calendar allows them to attend. Then we'll make sure that we have the vehicle and the float ready to give a tutorial on how to put it together.
Sounds good. All right. And with that is the third item of new business, and there are no reports, no in camera. So that will adjourn the evening and the meeting for May 23rd. Thank you very much.